in my mind, I had like my music career was over. You feel me? Because, and I don't mean my music making career. I just thought like, my time when you get on and you do well, it had passed.
Yeah.
So all that early Shabazz Palaces music that I made before Black Up, which was 2 EPs, that stuff was made with no expectation of ever even putting it out. As a matter of fact, I thought I would never make music in the industry again just because I had basically fell off and my time had passed. You know what I mean? That music is like just straight up pure expression without expectation.
Welcome to Stars and Stars with Issa. This is the show where we look to the stars above with the stars below. I'm Issa Nakazawa, your host and resident astrologer. And today I'm super excited to be joined by Grammy Award-winning rapper, producer, and hip-hop legend Ishmael Butler. You might know him from the 90s iconic groundbreaking hip-hop trio Digable Planets and his later work with the hip-hop group Shabazz Palaces. Throughout his career, Ishmael's music has always felt like it exists in its own dimension, merging jazz, philosophy, and a kind of sonic world building that feels both deeply rooted and completely otherworldly. As a Cancer sun and Pisces moon, Ish navigates this push and pull beautifully, infusing the familial ancestral roots of his Seattle upbringing while still experimenting with and expanding his sound. In our conversation, we talk all about his creative inspirations, how he found freedom in making music, and he also shares some wisdom on love and relationships. So without further ado, let's get into the episode. Ish, it's like honestly just such a blessing to speak with you. I met you first at the Blue Note Jazz Festival where I had 6 minutes with all of you. You,
Right.
Doodlebug, yeah. And yeah, everyone was beautiful and lovely, but I really wanted to have a chance to speak with you more in depth because I've been such a fan of your music since I was a little girl till now at 39 years old. So thank you so much for being on Stars and Stars. How are you? What's up? Talk to me.
I I appreciate everything you said, and I remember that. That was a cool atmosphere there, but it was frenetic in terms of like you having to try to get what you wanted to get done, I'm sure, because it was just like choo choo choo. But overall, that was a really, really fun time for me getting to see and be around all those people. But I appreciate everything you said. I've been good. We was just down in California last weekend for some shows. Got to hang with my brother and my niece and his family down in San Diego, Solana Beach, and back home chilling for a couple days. So feeling good. How you doing?
I'm doing wonderful. Like, I feel so blessed to have found this vehicle of astrology and to be able to have a conversation with some of my favorite artists and illuminate how the cosmos, I feel like the thing that's so beautiful about this show is getting to see how people live out their star map without even a
Yeah.
conscious awareness of it.
Wow. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's one thing that made me interested in talking to you about it, because it's not something that I ever really studied or understood or learned that much about, but I've had proximity to people that do, or at least are interested in it. And I've always had, I guess you could call it a curiosity and a belief in the power and the reality of it and the naturalness of it. So I'm excited to learn today. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I wanted to, say thank you because so I was actually a skeptic. That's what brought me to it. And I'm just skeptical as a person. I like to research, and I always tell people that doubt is part of my faith. I
Yeah.
think there's a relationship between doubt and faith. But what really opened to it was, I was born in 86, so I'm an 80s baby. And
Mhm.
I'm the youngest of 3 sisters. And so we were all artists and we would play Digable Planets and Bjork and Massive Attack. And
Good.
we were just like hip hop punk kids growing up in Boston. And we would do art and draw. My sister's a Pisces, which we're going to talk about today.
Okay.
And we would get lost in the music. Then fast forward, I'm in my 20s. I'm living in San Francisco, and I'm like a poetry teacher in public high schools. And Black Up comes out. Shabazz Palaces comes out. My best friends and I are just riveted by the music. And I'm bringing the Khalil Joseph visuals and the music into these public high school classrooms. And
Wow.
I'm seeing all these Oakland and San Francisco Bay Area youth respond to it the same way I am. And they're
Wow.
generating all this writing off of it. And I'm generating all this creativity off of it. And I don't know if you remember, but at that time, like I was heavy into Jay Electronica. It was Georgia Ann
Mm-hmm.
Muldrow, Iman
Mm-hmm.
Omari. There was so much. Sarah was obviously older, but like there was just all of this music
Yes.
that to me felt like this is Sun Ra. This is Coltrane. This is like coming out of a tradition that's not
Mm.
new.
Mm.
And it was music like, and I really want to talk about Shabazz Palaces because I didn't get to talk to you about it at Napa, but it was really music that reminded me of Sun Ra, where it was remembering as the same time that was teleporting me to this future that I had
Mm.
never been, but I felt like I already knew.
Mm.
And so that kind of opened me up to being more interested in astrology and cosmology because I was like, the music is not pushing any agenda.
Mm-hmm.
Like the music doesn't have this like encoded preachiness to it, but it has this kind of mythic quality that feels like it's teleporting me inside myself and to these other places that may or may not have a specific agenda to it.
Mm.
And so that kind of made me more curious about where we come from in a bigger sense. So before I get into your star map, like I guess my opening question is, what has your relationship been to cosmology or the cosmos or this concept of like, I'm from a bigger place than what's on my birth certificate?
Everything for me starts with my parents and my immediate family, my grandmothers and stuff like that. Nobody was a practitioner of it, but I feel like every one of those people was riding on the natural waves of it in the sense that they were open. You know, in the rural South, there were people that really were practitioners of that. So my grandparents were like, had a proximity to it, even if they didn't have an understanding of it, they had a belief in it and understood that it had not only the power to sort of reveal, also some predictive power, and also the ability to travel into natural worlds, that something that you couldn't necessarily see as you looked out into the world, you know? So from those people, I think I learned to be open to it. You feel me? So in my life, when people have come to me to do a reading or have some assessment of me, obviously it varies between people's ability and skill and talent to do it what they tell you.
Yeah.
But I've always been intensely listening and curious about what's being said, you know?
Yeah, I'm smiling because so you're a Cancer sun and a Pisces moon. So a lot of what I prepared today is talking about kind of the meaningful differences and the shared energies between these two water signs. And I'm the third water sign that's absent in your chart, which is Scorpio. So the Scorpio is present in the conversation. But I'm smiling because we're going to start with your Cancer sun, and Cancer presides over the family, right? And I think it's so beautiful how you express it. Like even your Instagram is like Barbara and Reginald's son. And I was listening to an interview where you said Barbara's son was even your email at one point, right?
Yeah.
I was like, Cancer men. And, you know, Cancer is ruled by the moon, which is the closest celestial body. You and I are gathered the day right after a full moon in Libra yesterday. And so your moon ruled, you're lunar, right? And so I always think of the moon as one of the zodiac's timekeepers, but it's cyclical time, right? So the moon is used in harvesting still to this day. Speaking of like rural folks who use moon cycles for planting, for harvesting. And it also, you know, influences mating cycles. As a woman, we always joke that like our menstruation cycle links up with the moon's, which is very real. So we know the moon is a certain kind of timekeeper, which I always love for musicians, because musicians are in their own time signature, right?
Yes, indeed.
But you also are such an embodiment of it, like even thinking about Cancer as roots and ancestry and the family unit. I was smiling thinking about Seattle, like where you're from, you know, that was one of the anthems of Digable Planets. But also just starting there, right? Like the landscape of Seattle feels like it's such a literal map of the internal landscape of the crab, right? Like fresh water, all of the rain, the temperamental nature. Like we all know Cancers have to honor their moods. So I'd love to just start there. If you can just paint a picture of where you grew up and how that kind of landscape shaped you, and even maybe some of your family stories, your childhood stories of what it was like growing up in Seattle.
Yeah, so I grew up in what's called the Central District. I was born in '69. So in the '70s, it was cool here because I lived in a neighborhood that was like settled by mostly Black people that had moved from the South. My grandparents came up from Louisiana to work for Boeing during the war effort. So they came up here sight unseen. Boeing would go down there and like hand out flyers in the rural areas to come up north,
Wow.
and there's opportunity up there. My grandparents, they answered that call. They were frontiersmen and explorers, men and women. And so that a whole community of people came from the South, Texas, Arkansas, Louisiana. They moved up here to Seattle, worked and built their lives up here. So they were the ones that got us to the Central District, bought a house out there. My mother was born there,
Mm.
and I lived there all the way through high school. And it was cool because it was a real familial atmosphere. You feel me? Everybody knew each other. I lived close to school. I walked to and from school every day since I was probably old enough to do it, like late in primary school, 5th, 6th grade, something like that. And, just walking through the rain, walking through the different climates. We got lakes here. We got forests here. There's Mount Rainier is very close by. There's fresh water. There's salt water. And then, the people that were here too, that have left their spiritual presence in this place as well, are all things that as I got older, I realized are huge parts of my life and also influences on my life as well.
That's
So
beautiful.
I had a big family, a big extended family that was very culturally similar, but also we were all children of explorers, and we all sort of like embodied that. All of us were curious and outgoing and funny and adventurous, and had a sense of community, and that we were part of something cohesive and big, and that really led me to the freedoms that allowed me to be like that in my life and like pursue my passions and believe that that was something that I had the right and a duty to do.
That makes so much sense. What was the music environment? Like, I know you've talked about your dad being a jazz cat and maybe having some Philly East Coast roots. And I
Mm-hmm.
don't know about your mom's like musical kind of influence too. Like what were the sounds in the house?
My mother, was a product of her time, which was heavily, heavily, heavily R&B, Motown influenced, My dad is a Philly cat. So he was a doo-wop guy, and he was into that kind of stuff. And then once he got older, he really started getting into jazz music, bebop and all that. But all of those tentacles of Black music from my mom's side, so they split up when I was very young. My dad stayed on the East and my mother was out here in Seattle. But they maintained a really, healthy relationship, especially for me. So whenever I wasn't with one for the school year, I was with my pop for the school year or vice versa. So I was able to get a very diverse upbringing culturally, living in Baltimore, living in Philly, living in New York, and living in Seattle, So yeah, my pops was a jazz guy, got me my first saxophone when I was in the 5th grade, got me lessons. My mother continued that when I got out here with my jazz and classical saxophone teacher, Mr. Irvin, when I got to middle
Shout
school.
out.
So they kept me sort of in. My passion was athletics,
Yeah,
basketball.
basketball. Yeah.
Yeah, but they kept me with a diverse palette of activities. I'm sure they had ulterior motives, for keeping me as busy as possible. And just in terms of, keeping me on the straight and narrow. But
Yep.
yeah, because of that, I had a vast experience of activities when I was a kid because of what my parents was getting me into.
I feel like you can feel that in you. Like there's like a texture, there's a layered conversation. It's interesting too when I've heard you talk about being raised more, maybe this is more of a question because I don't know how you were raised, but more strict or there was
Mm-hmm.
more discipline.
Mm.
And it's interesting because you have your birth chart, just looking at your luminaries of the sun and moon are in these water signs. I do find Cancer, its opposite sign is Capricorn, which is the disciplinarian of the zodiac. And
Mm.
it's the chronological timekeeper, Saturn. Saturn is Chronos. It's like dominant clock time. And I always imagine, because sometimes I like to animate the planets because it helps me think of them in like a real way. And I think of Saturn as like a grandfather that just looks at you and is like not saying good job. He's just looking at you like, you could do even better. And you're like, damn it. And so I'm curious about that relationship, being this like artist and even having a background in athletics and how that kind of set you up later in life.
That's real spit because organized sports, which is something that I got into when I was in the single digits of age, and I stayed in it all the way through high school and into college. But the discipline of it, the understanding that practicing things is a way to exercise freedom when it's time to play. You feel me? So practicing, drilling, spending time, sacrificing play time in order to learn a skill, team building, being able to relate, being able to be taught and coached and told hard truths and see yourself in ways to push yourself physically to pass barriers, and all of those things basically made me who I am. All of my coaches, especially my high school coach, because my basketball team was a high level basketball team. We were state champions for 2 years. My coach after me was state champion, before me was state champion. So I was in a program that had expectations, and pressure, and to achieve those things, we had to practice and we had to be taught as young men and women, obviously, but on my team, young men, hard things and really face the truths about ourselves, accept them, and then try to improve on them. So that stuff right there is the foundation, the sediment of who I am. With my coach Al Hairston and Jojo Rodriguez, who, to this day, I see them cats around town, and it's like I get emotional to see them because of how much they mean to me and how much they did for me, because even though me and my pop was really tight, my dad lived in the East Coast. My mom was here. My mom was busy. She had to work. So those brothers, they really formed me in a healthy way. And, and then we had a lot of great experiences and we won a lot too, which was also happy and fun too. You know what I mean? Yeah.
It's good to say their names, and just like acknowledge that foundation. Because I feel like a lot of people listening too, I always think about this and reflect on my major transformations in life have been the repetition of some really unsexy, mundane commitments and promises that I've learned to keep to myself. So you transition from being a son to being a father.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so curious about that, right? Like you have, children and they become a reflection of you. They also, I'm sure, become a reflection of your own parents and your own parenting. And Cancer is a cardinal sign, and we call the cardinal signs the leadership signs because they initiate the seasons. And then your Pisces moon is what we call a mutable sign, and the mutable signs are here to adapt to change. They're claustrophobic easily. They don't like to be defined. They're shapeshifters. So you have these two different energies, the leader and the shapeshifter. And I'm so curious how that plays out with raising a child. Like the part of you, Cancer likes security, right? So it likes to have a certain kind of discipline because it likes to ensure safety. But then Pisces is the empath. Pisces is spiritual surrender. And Pisces is the part of you that knows you can't overly shape a child. You can't control a child. A child has to emerge. Their personality has to give birth to itself. So I wonder if you could tell a story of like that balance of like a moment where you were afraid and you tried to assert control, and then that Pisces moon wisdom kicked in of, yo, your child is your child. Like they have to go on their own journey. I imagine that's rough. That's probably hard.
It's hard in the sense that it's difficult for you emotionally, myself, you know? I like what you're asking me because my kids are very bright, special, caring, thoughtful, observant, dedicated, relaxed, very funny people. And as they gotten older, you know, because of the quality of the type of people that they are, I find myself really trying to live up to be something that they like, you know, that they're proud of, you know what I mean? So that keeps me striving, you feel me? It keeps me striving, you know? Um, but to your question, it's true. I I'd learned from my parents that I don't want my kids to do things that I want them to do. But I do want them to do the things that they want to do and understand that whatever that is, that me will be there to be truthful to them, honest to them, but to offer a type of support that they won't find nowhere else, you know? So I'm just trying to like assert that reality to them. And to as long as they're safe and feel health, then everything else I feel like is achievable and accomplishable that we can do together. You know what I mean? So what you were saying about wanting to be sort of like a strict, but also let them be free.
Yes.
I do believe that, you know, and I believe that I got that. So it helped me feel relaxed and confident in the world. So I be trying to have them feel like that. And it's always ups and downs. Everybody deal with stuff and things personal and things also social. But as long as they know, you know, that I'm here in a way that is not really even calculable, you know, for them, that makes me feel satisfied. You know what I mean?
That's so beautiful. Thinking about your son's music too, and I looked up his chart, and your son has a similar dynamic to you where there's like this charisma, there's this like relational aspect, but then there's this far out aspect.
Mm.
And it's both of your moons are like in these far out signs. His is in Aquarius, yours is in Pisces. They sit next to each other in the zodiac, and they're here to create interventions in the patterns. And even in relationships, I'm sure, like there's an eccentricity there that I wonder if it's part of your heritage or your lineage to be here to honor tradition and also break away from it, or also create some sort of opening, right?
Mm.
Do you feel, I feel like you, like Shabazz Palaces to me was that. It's like, I think you were around 43 at the time.
Mm.
Sherry Wine had come before.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's just this music that I was like, well, I'm a poet. So it just resonated so much with me. The like your wordplay and then the actual sonics themselves and then the visuals. It just felt like total permission to be spontaneous, to improvise, but to have a deep felt sense of where you're going. You know, like it felt like an album where there was a lot of trust in yourself and a lot of fun. And so I'm curious about that relationship actually in the artistry itself between going from a time back in the day where I'm sure studio time was super expensive. You had to be in New York. You had to get put on in a very certain way. And then you're 43, you're making this other type of music and you're able to improvise live. I got to see you do your thing at that era. Like it just felt different. It felt like there was more freedom. And I'm not sure if that's how it felt for you, but like what was that continuum of like moving from structure to this kind of free Pisces formlessness?
Yeah, that's real. I mean, in my mind, I had like my music career was over. You feel me? Because,
Oh,
and I don't mean my music making career. I just
got it.
thought like, you know, my time when you get in, you get on and you do well, it had passed, you know?
Yeah.
So all that early Shabazz Palaces music that I made before Black Up, which was 2 EPs, that stuff was made with no expectation of ever even putting it out. As a matter of fact, I thought I would never make music in the industry again just because I had basically fell off and my time had passed. You know what I mean? That music is like just straight up pure expression without expectation, you know?
Can you tell me a little bit about that origin story of Shabazz Palaces?
I gotta go Octavia Butler and mention her as well in turn, like the science fiction aspect of sort of my the influence on me really starts out early with like Prince,
Mm.
Parliament Funkadelic, and of course
Yes.
Sun Ra. But Sun Ra and Star Child, and everybody in Parliament and Funkadelic with all of the epics, songs and concepts and characters and all of that stuff. That's what really got me or started on that sort of trajectory. My pop was a Sun Ra fan, and he's from Philly too, so he had connection to the Philly cats in Sun Ra and all that. And when they was in Philly, all that he
Wow.
knew about them and knew some of them. So it was around me always. But Octavia Butler,
Yes.
building worlds like Prince, like Sun Ra, but especially George Clinton is
Yeah. Say that. We
yeah,
all grew up on him.
yeah, this cat's imagination and ability to, proliferate imagination while being spontaneous, but also an orchestrator and a band leader, all of these things, a poet, a storyteller. It's beyond definition, really. But what it does is for a young person like me, it gave me a palette of possibility that then I could sort of adapt and then use myself to like express myself like that, So that's really how it all came about. But the Shabazz Palace is difficult to really relate how, it just wasn't about releasing music and pursuing
Yeah.
a career. That's why the first two EPs, like I didn't even say that it was my name. I didn't put my name or
You didn't.
Digable, nothing with it. It was just I released it. I pressed it up myself on CD. I made 100 each, pressed them up and sold them at the local record stores here, and it all started from there because I realized after I had fell off and didn't have no prospects, different things started mattering to me, and I thought to myself, if I do it again, it's got to be because of the music and that's it. So that was sort of my outlook. I stopped being a personality and started being a movement kind of. And I wanted to try to assert myself like that. So that's kind of how it started.
I want to pivot to love and relationships because I love love and relationships. And in astrology, we have the moon, which is what our needs are, like what we need to feel nurtured and how we nourish. And then we have Venus, which is the love language, what we're drawn to, how we adorn ourselves, our relationship to Venusian things like flirtation and our values. Like Venus is so many things. And then Mars is our drives. Like it's like sex, how we fight. I always call it like our lizard part of ourself, where it's not cerebral at all. It's the part of us that's just our engine and our instinct. So your Venus is what we call in domicile or at home. She's at home in the sign of Taurus, which is the second sign of the zodiac, the sensualist, the gardener, the one who's like sitting in their abundance. And it's a fixed earth sign. It's the sustainer of life. It's very similar to me to Cancer. Like Cancers and Taurus make great couples because they both love cuddling and cooking. They both love providing very generously for their loved ones. And they're both very sensual, right? And then we have your Mars is in the first fire sign of Sagittarius. And I do believe that Sagittariuses are the myth makers. They're the questers. They're the searchers and seekers. But Mars is also happy in a fire sign because fire signs get stuff done. So I love seeing Mars in a fire sign because, like, I love people who walk their talk. Like I don't like observing people who are always telling me what they're going to do and they never do it. So Mars and Sag gets it done. But I just want to know how this tension plays out in your actual life. Like, because Cancer and Taurus are similar. They like having a level of comfort and sensuality and like exchange that they can control or predict. Control sounds too intense. Like predict.
Nah, that's real.
Yeah.
I'm
and then
like that.
Yeah. And then Mars and Sag and Pisces actually, they need a certain amount of space. They like adventure. They like novelty and change. So to me, as an astrologer looking at your chart, I'm like, there's a little bit of a push-pull here.
Yeah.
I'm like 39, so I want the wisdom. Like, I want the love advice because I have
Okay.
similar stuff in my chart where I have a real intense need for commitment and intimacy, but then I have a very high threshold for change and variety and eccentricity. And so my love life has always been that. It's just been a lot of periods of connection and then a lot of periods of liberation. And I think on some level at 39, I've accepted that that's totally okay. But I also like getting and receiving like love wisdom from older folks around like, how do you accept your love nature and how do you not shame it and just accept the way you are, you know?
It's tough though because sometimes your love nature, which is, whatever, similar to what you described. For me, sometimes it's tough because, you might like somebody or somebody might like you, and your love nature isn't the same as theirs, you know? And it could be misconstrued as, devaluing or not honoring, something. But it's difficult for you to impart where you coming from to somebody that sort of is not really understanding that or feeling that. So it comes up sometime. The things that make you attractive and desirable and something that somebody wants to hold on to are the very things that frustrate that person in terms of, your behavior, your desires, and the way that you move. So I do know what you mean by that. But yeah, the wisdom, because you're saying you're 39, that's around the time or a little bit before when I sort of did kind of peep, okay, you like this is how you are, and you have to move accordingly to your truth and your reality and be as real and honest with the people that you are in relationships with. But you also, you gotta be you know what I mean? And be who you naturally are. So the wisdom, I think, just comes from you already have the wisdom, you know it, but it takes time to hone it and to perfect it and to be comfortable inside of it. So I'm still in that process as well because it's not like it just ends just because you have recognized it. It still has to be orbiting around in this solar system with the people that you're dealing with and both friends and romantically and all kind of relationships, business and partnerships and work relationships and stuff like that. But it's important. What I think of it in terms of is, am I allowing people to be themselves as
Oof.
well? You feel me? Because a lot of times people just get caught up in, I need this and I need that and I need
Yes.
for this. And then, but you're not thinking, okay, you just carving shit space out for yourself, but are you also listening to people that you care about and what they want need? So if you can do that, then I think you sort of allow yourself to also be you because it's not just about you. You're not just being selfish, you're being aware, and if you can be aware,
Mhm.
then you can deserve things for yourself at that time because you can provide things that other people need too. It ain't always gonna work out 100%, but at least you got some balance in what you're expecting and what you're giving, hopefully.
That was really beautiful. I need to hear that. I do peep that though. There's a lot of like selfishness on all sides, which I think is probably based in fear. But I also at 39 have realized that I'm searching for a divine love. And sometimes there's a lack of connection available on the surface, at least in this country, because I live in the US, to satisfy a transcendent or a spiritual kind of connection. And so I think we go to romantic love and then we try and pressure people to deliver something that
Mm.
maybe we are seeking in a bigger sense. And so I'm trying to experiment with that because as I've grown my spiritual discipline, I feel a lot less pressure there. So I feel like there's also something about Tetris as you get older where you realize there's like valves where the pressure gets released. And so you're able to show up in romantic love or in your creative life, which is kind of weirdly similar to romantic life, with more openness as opposed to like shaming it
Mm-hmm.
or fearing it.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can kind of show up relaxed.
I think so too. And Tetris was invented by a human being, which was probably influenced by how they saw the world, you know what I mean? And how they saw emotions and like they were like, yo, I got a game.
And I did love that game. I was like, this
Yeah,
is
I mean, we
soothing.
all did because it was just like, oh shit. But this is how it works. You gotta try to fit shit in and then it gets faster and faster. You feel me?
Yes, faster.
Yeah.
Damn, Tetris, you were
Yeah.
hella deep the whole
Yeah.
time.
The zen of Tetris. You already know.
That's what it be feeling like. I'd be like, oh, this is like I'm like, oh, we got 2 minutes. Holy shit, the yellows and the greens and shit. And I don't have my brain stops working after 5 p.m. I'm like, yo. But my last question for you is that you've been performing with Digable, and I'm so curious as a Cancer, I think about nostalgia is very heavily associated with Cancer. And I'm always curious what that feels like to be re-performing music. And is it like the music itself is almost teleporting you back? Or is it like as all three of you have changed and transformed, you're re-injecting the music with a new energy? Or is it somewhere in the middle? Like, what does that feel like to be hitting the stage and performing these classic songs for people where it means so much to them?
I was a little conscious of that. No, I was very conscious of the presentation of it when I was sort of just thinking about doing the new shows and how we would do it. So with the band, one thing that I really wanted to do was that to use the recorded songs as a point of departure for the performances now, so that each night we could have variation that would keep the nostalgia of it alive for the people that were coming to see it and wanted to sort of relive that time or step into that portal and get transported back, but also move forward at the same time with some new takes on things. So it's important for me to present the music so that you can readily hear the source of it and take it back to the the recording, but also go somewhere else at the same time. So that moving in both directions is something that that was sort of thought about and planned. But also for me personally, it allows things to not get redundant or played out or rote or boring, so because every night you gotta do something that is a little bit different, even though it's based in something that you've done a whole bunch of times.
That's so beautiful. And that's your chart. It's moving in both directions and it's honoring the
You said
past.
that, I know. And you said it with the leopard, you know what I'm saying, with the print
This
on.
was
so
straight
it
for
ma-
you, just
with
like
the
that.
match with
I
the
was like,
nails too. Okay,
I'm trying this new color. I don't know. I really like the green,
I like
but
it.
okay.
I
It's
like it a
called
lot.
Sunshine. I was like, I don't know. I'm trying or Sunbeam.
No, that's
But I
fresh.
like slime green.
Okay,
But these are my ish nails. Ish and
yeah,
Issa, that goes
okay.
together.
Let's
It's
go.
just the Ish and Issa.
The triumvirate.
So
Yeah, let's
yes.
go. Yeah.
Well, are there any things you want to shout out to the listeners, ways to stay connected? I don't know if you have any upcoming tour dates or anything.
DigablePlanets.com is where we do all the tour dates and stuff. We got Darius, Thaddeus, Gerald, Carlos, and Ace is in the band, and them cats are bad. We do a real upbeat, live, energetic show. So if we hitting it in your town, come check us out. Shabazz Palaces on Instagram. Check me out and see what I'm up to in the world and different pictures and posts about from my life and stuff like that. And Shabazz Palaces dropping a new album on Sub Pop this year. So tune in for that. It's called It's a Style Sport. And yeah,
I'm gonna lose my mind.
making some new jams. You already know. But
You better
yeah.
come to Oakland.
Oh yeah, come on now. Come on now. You
The
know, me and
planet
my
of
daughter
Oakland.
D used to live in Oakland. Me and D lived in around Lake Merritt, and we lived in Berkeley for a little while. So
Oh
she
my
went down there.
gosh.
Shout out Oakland, shout out the Bay, shout out everybody down there. You know,
We love you.
shout out Rick Rock for making me my voice part of a Bay Area classic for the rest of my life with the Too Short joint. You feel me? But yeah, love the Bay and thank you for having me on and thank you for the nails and the lapel. You feel me? I'll
Thank
never
you so
forget it.
much, Ish.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was Ishmael, who is a Cancer sun. As always, to end the show, I want to leave you with some key takeaways we can all benefit from, inspired by our stars chart. So, one of the things that really stayed with me from today's conversation is the relationship between Cancer and Pisces, not as opposites, but as collaborators. Cancer teaches us how to build a life that can hold us, how to create safety, memory, and belonging. It's the part of us that says, this is where I'm from, this is who I am, and this is what matters to me. And Pisces reminds us that we're not meant to control everything we build. It asks us to soften, to trust, and to let life move through us. To remember that we are part of something much bigger than what we can name or define. And what Ishmael spoke to so beautifully is that the work isn't choosing one or the other, it's learning how to live in both. To build a container strong enough to hold your life, and then to let something unexpected, something divine move through it. Whether that's in your art, your relationships, or even in parenting, creating enough safety for something to take shape and then having the courage to let it become what it's meant to be. And that's something we can all reflect on. Where in your life are you being asked to create more structure, more grounding, more care? And where are you being asked to release control and trust what's unfolding? And that's it for our download from the cosmos this week. If you liked today's episode, please leave a comment to keep the conversation going. Hit that subscribe button, and remember we're live on YouTube every Wednesday answering your cosmic questions. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you next week.